if we want to defend the country, we have to defend against who's coming in. And Marco has more of an allegiance to Chuck Schumer and to the liberals than he does to conservative policy.
What he's pointing to is a bill last week, an amendment he voted for that only 10 people voted for. You know why? Because it's not focused on terrorists. It would have banned anyone from coming here. Someone from Taiwan would not have been able to come here as a tourist. And the terrorist that attacked us in San Bernardino was an American citizen, born and raised in this country. And I bet you we wish we would have had access to 5 years of his record so we could see who he was working with.
Every terrorist attack we've had since 9/11 has been legal immigration. Marco wants to expand that. I want more rules, more scrutiny, and to defend the country, you have to defend the border.
All right, that was Senator Rand Paul clashing with Senator Marco Rubio earlier tonight at the GOP debate in Las Vegas. Senator Paul joins us now from the spin room. Boy, comparing him to Chuck Schumer, that is about as low a blow from one senator to another. That is a low blow.
Well, you know, the Gang of Eight bill, Marco's immigration bill, he co-sponsored with Chuck Schumer, so I think it's only appropriate.
All right, let me go to an interesting moment with you and Donald Trump, and that was, is he a serious candidate? Now, you said close the internet, that would violate the First Amendment. I would agree, but don't you think that smart guys in Silicon Valley and some of the smart computer programmers and those that are capable of ascertaining, following leads of people we suspect that are involved in this encryption and secret conversations, don't you think we'd be stupid not to find out what they're saying to each other?
I'm all for going after as many records as we can get of terrorists. I just ask that it be done in an individualized fashion where you put a person's name on a warrant, you say we have suspicion they did X, and then you get a judge to sign it. I'm just not for sweeping things. Donald Trump's talking about closing down the internet. To close the internet would violate the Constitution and would specifically violate the First Amendment. So I think when he says these outlandish things, someone needs to call him on it. So I was glad I did. Yeah. He says other things like, well, we should kill the terrorists' families. So we're going to kill like their 2-year-old kids, their 4-year-old kids. And the thing is that to kill bystanders and non-combatants goes against what America stands for and goes against the Geneva Convention.
There was an I'm not so sure if I agree with all the Geneva Conventions and whether or not other countries follow those rules. There's a separate debate. But there's an executive order, I believe President Ford at the time, that prohibits the assassination of foreign leaders. I think if we got an opportunity to take out an evil foreign leader, that we'd be wise to do so. I would overrule that. Where would you stand on overturning that executive order?
Well, I think we have in some ways had other executive orders that have superseded that. What I would say is that anybody involved in combat is an open target. They're not getting any due process. We're not going to wait around. We can kill anybody that's in combat. I am concerned a little bit about, killing somebody in a non-combat zone, that we're just going to go and find somebody that's traveling somewhere. So I do think that there's a difference between combat and non-combat. I also do think there's a difference between killing someone's family. I just don't really think killing the kids of terrorists or killing their wives somehow is something that Americans would want to. And I think people would be horrified if they listened to Donald Trump. If they actually listened to Donald Trump and what he's saying, that's why I wanted to point it out so people could let it sink in. He's talking about killing women and children, and he's talking about getting rid of the First Amendment to the Constitution. Those are pretty big deals.
You were asked twice about whether or not you blame the hawks of the Republican Party for the rise of ISIS. Isn't the real answer that the Republican Party and being in Iraq, we won Mosul. A lot of Americans fought, bled, and died there. And Ramadi and Fallujah and Tikrit. And isn't what happened with the rise of ISIS the vacuum that was created because President Obama pulled out early for political expediency and didn't stay there long enough to finish the job? Isn't that the real cause?
Well, I think when we talk about the ultimate answer of whose cause of ISIS, obviously it's ISIS. It's really no one's ultimate fault other than the terrorists.
But the president left a vacuum by leaving early.
Right. Yes, but you can also make the argument that the iron fist of Saddam Hussein was the only glue that held that disparate country together, and that when the iron fist of Hussein was gone, chaos was inevitable. Some people don't think that it really can ever be a country again. Unless you have an iron fist again, how can you get the Kurds and the Sunnis and the Shiites all together? Other mistakes that happened over time, We were there for a decade. We spent $1 trillion and let the government in Baghdad became entirely sectarian, full of Shiites. And as a consequence, when the ISIS came into the Sunni towns, the people, the Sunnis, said, you know what, we hate the Shiites worse than we hate ISIS.
All right, Senator, good to see you. Good night for you. Appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Sean.
And coming up, former Governor Mike Huckabee will join us from the Spin Room. That's straight ahead.